This is the sinister minister, Father James Mitchell, here to let the wrestling world know that I've gotten wind of something unholy. Specifically, the terrifying return to wrestling of the unholy icon, Darken GraVes, and unfortunate you all shall be.
And well, it is I, the lyrical miracle, the sexual, intellectual, the cunning linguist, and the quintessential stud muffin, Joel. I told your mom I prefer her hairless. So that's why she shaves. And also she does it because she's in the cemetery gates with the unholy icon, Darken GraVes. Gertner. And for your podcast listening pleasure, after you've had yourself an eargasm, downloading and listening to my 69-minute eargasm, after you've experienced the extreme with me and Blue Meanie and Josh Chernoff on That Was Extreme, make sure that you download and listen to Enter the Cemetery Gates with the unholy icon, Darken GraVes. Listen to that podcast, or else you're not listening to podcasts. Well.
Because you think you stand a chance against Darken GraVes. Get real.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Enter the Cemetery Gates. And I am the unholy icon, Darken GraVes. And tonight, I've been doing this for about 10 years now. And whether it was 500 plus listeners for one show or even just two, this makes it all worth it tonight. I'm not going to waste any of your time or his time either. I'm going to bring him right out. The manager of champions, the man who calls it right down the middle, Daddy, Bill Alfonso.
Oh, hey, boys. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody listening. Thanks for tuning in for another one of my boys' famous podcasts, Daddy.
I want to tell you that I want to thank you for being here, brother. It really means a lot.
Oh, it means a lot to me. It's very flattering to be asked to be on a podcast, especially with you. You're a veteran and doing these things. It's very cool to be on with you, Daddy.
Very cool. So I noticed you was taking us around you was taking me around the office earlier. You had some pretty cool stuff.
Well, I got 40 years of, you know what I mean, pictures and stuff. I can't believe some of the stuff I've accumulated. And I've sold a bunch of stuff. People want my ring worn stuff, or pictures with me and Dusty, or me and Bruiser Brody in that famous cage match with Lex Luger, or the 65,000 people that attended the Tokyo Dome with Ric Flair and Fujinami. Just all kind of cool stuff like that. Let me walk you through some. This is where I do all my work at. You know what I mean? There's me and my boy Taz. Can you see that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, me and Taz. Of course, that's the famous picture right there. And that's my
Team
best.
Taz.
Yeah, my boy RVD's badass. Just got inducted
love
into the
that.
Hall of Fame.
I love that
Just
picture.
released his documentary, which I was all over. Can you believe Vince McMahon flew 2 camera guys, a sound guy, and a producer to my home and interviewed me for 3.5 hours for the podcast and paid me? I would have paid Vince.
Oh, wow.
I
You've
would have
always
paid
had a good relationship with Vince.
Yeah, he's been good to me all these years. WrestleMania 9, and I got my biggest payday from Vince, which was $25,000 payday is fucking unbelievable for a referee. But I was
Yeah.
Vince's guy. I was more, you know what I mean, backstage, all hands on deck. I used to get heat with all the other referees, with the Hebners and Mike Chioda and God rest Joey Morella. So. I never had been to Madison Square Gardens, right? So I'm booked in Madison Square. It's a big deal for me. That's the most famous arena on the planet. Nothing bigger than Madison Square Gardens. You know what I mean? That is the fucking pinnacle of venues. So I see my name on the booking sheet. I said, "Damn, Madison Square, MSJ." I said, "Where's it? Where's that at?" "Oh, that's Madison Square." I was fucking thrilled, right? So I want to make an impression my first time in Madison Square. So, I wore one of my beautiful fucking suits. I had a Submariner Rolex on. Fucking, I had the Louis Vuitton luggage. I walk in, and before the matches start, everybody's, around the ring, and the guys are working out, going over their stuff. And so Vince was at ringside, where there's about 30 wrestlers, and the referees are scattered. We're all scattered all over the building. So I walk in, and Vince sees me walk in with my nice luggage and my fucking beautiful suit and my hair fucking tucked in, beautiful and shaven and, looking great.
I bet you love that.
Oh, yeah. So Vince calls me over. He says, "Fonzie, come here." So he yells it across the hall. So I walk down the ringside, and the guy's in there, and he says, "Hey, all you referees, come here." So there comes both Hebners and Mike Yoda and Joey Morella. God rest his soul.
Rest in peace. Yes.
Yeah, I would have been in that car if I would have still. I got released 2 weeks prior to Joey's death. So travel together. All the referees are on last, so we would jump in the car with each other and drive back to wherever we were driving. But so I would have been in that car if I would have been there. I got released because, business, I was one of the last referees to get hired. So they released me because business was down. And Vince said, "Hey, Fonzie, we're not releasing you, but we're releasing you. And anytime we run Florida, we're going to use you. And when business picks back up, you right back on the list." I said, "Okay, thank you so much." So anyway, I walk in Madison Square. I'm looking like $1 million in my suit. And all the other referees are in Zubas and shorts, and you know what I mean? So Vince calls me over, all the referees. He said, "Hey, you guys see how Fonzie's dressed? That's how I want you guys to dress from now on. For any TVs, any pay-per-views, any big special events, I want you to dress like Fonzie." Boy, all the fucking referees got mad at me. The Hebners, "Why you gotta dress like that, Fonzie? Now we gotta dress like that." I said, "Hey, Dad, oh man, I want to dress nice. So in Madison Square, you should fucking dress like this, you fucking idiot." Well, I shouldn't say fucking idiots because I like the Hebners. They were okay. So little things like that Vince likes. You know what I mean? I work hard. I give you another example why Vince likes me. Tatanka and Bam Bam Bigelow were going to do an angle and work a program together for a couple of months. So usually do the angles on Monday Night Raw or something. So the angle was they get into it backstage and back by the dressing room, and then we pull them apart. We don't let them fight too much. You know what I mean? We save it for the ring and the pay-per-views and all that. So before we did the pull apart, the referees come down all the and hold those two guys back. So I'm the smallest referee there. I'm weighing like a $165. You know what I mean? Thin, tall, lean, beautiful, and so I said, Bam Bam, you see that trash can? It's about 35, 40 feet from you. So I'm so small. Why should I grab you and me force you back? It doesn't look right. I say, I'll be the first one there. You grab me by the pants and the neck and you throw me into that trash can. I'll fly in there like a fucking bullet, right? So, and it made sense. You know what I mean? So Tatanka and Bam Bam get into a fight, and here comes the referees. I'm the first one to them, and Bam Bam grabs me and throws me, and I go in midair, about 30 feet. I'm flying like a fucking bullet. I hit the trash can. It looked fucking great. Not a scratch on me. Thank God I didn't get hurt.
You could take a bump like no other referee. I got to say that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Some really good-looking bumps.
Yeah. Hey, did you see me beat Beulah's ass?
I did. And
I beat that bitch's ass up and down the ECW arena. But anyway, let me finish this and we'll talk about that. So Bam Bam throws me in and we do the pull apart and I'm selling the shit and cut. So it's a wrap. And Vince calls me and said, Fonzie, come over here. He said, who told you to take that bump like that? I said, nobody. I thought it made sense, Vince. I'm the smallest guy and Bam Bam's 320 pounds. How could I possibly pull him apart? And so I told Bam Bam, throw me into the trash can. And he said, I love it. Great bump, Fonzie. All you referees, watch Fonzie work. You know what I mean? And I got heat again with all the other referees because I'm doing my job better than they are. I give it 110%, Daddy.
Right down the middle.
Right down the middle. So Vince liked me for many reasons. You know what I mean? Plus, I was the tallest athlete on the planet. Giant Gonzalez. There's nobody taller than him in any sport. I was his personal assistant for 3 years. Took care of him and had a great job. They paid me extra. They didn't have to. But we became really good friends. You know that old Bible tale where the mouse pulls a splinter from the lion and they become good friends?
Right. That's right. That's what that was.
So it was like that. I pulled the freaking splinter out of the giant's foot, and he fell in love with me. We were 3 years together, 350 days a year, every freaking day with me and the giant.
He spoke little English, right?
Excuse me?
He spoke very little English, right?
No, he spoke perfect English after a while. He's from Argentina, but he played European pro basketball, so he was all through Europe, and he learned, but he didn't speak perfect. But by the time we were finished, I taught him great English. He was speaking like me and you are speaking right now. His vocabulary was just fine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was a gentle giant. He loved me. It was my job. Like we'd get rooms right next to each other. We always stayed at the Marriott. And so it would be ordinary for him to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, Fonzie, I'm hungry. Would you mind going to me? Oh, what do you want, Giant? I'd go, it's my job. They're paying me 6 figures to take care of a giant and referee, which was fantastic. So it was and people would say, hey, did you get tired? Did you get sick of the giant having to go get him hamburgers and breakfast and this and that? And, take care of his doctor's appointments. And all. I said, hell no. It was a pleasure taking care of the largest athlete on the planet.
I would imagine it was pretty fun.
Oh my God. We'd go walk into a restaurant. The managers are all over us, take us back in the kitchen and give us all kind of extra stuff just to meet the giant, It was very cool. Very cool. I enjoyed that a lot.
And the women loved him too.
Oh my God. He was a good looking kid. And he wasn't like, Andre started at the end of his life. He started with the Giant's disease. His forehead was protruding, his jaw was getting bigger. But Giant Gonzalez had none of that yet. But, he ended up dying of the Giant's disease at 47 years old. God bless him. But the women loved him. And I'm not talking about the girls from the wrestling, like the fans and all that. I'm talking about we'd go into a mall, we'd have housewives following us around. He was
Yeah,
beautiful. This kid
I've
was
heard
beautiful,
that.
and the
That's
women
awesome.
just loved him.
7 feet 7 inches from Argentina.
Yep. Yep, they built him as 8 foot, but he was seven, almost 8 foot, man. It was amazing. I mean, he had a 25 shoe.
Yeah, Ali.
So it was pretty cool, man. Pretty cool.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
One of the first matches that you ever refereed was Terry Funk and the original Sheik, Sabu's uncle.
Damn, you did your homework, bro.
I did in
Yeah,
Texas.
that was my first. It was I think it was 78 or 79, or had spent 2 years trying to break in. So I became friends with Rocky Johnson, the Rock's dad, and King Curtis, and a couple of wrestlers, and they got my best friend Dave Patterson, the Cuban assassin, David Sierra. We were childhood buddies growing up, and he broke into the business, and I couldn't wrestle. I'm small. So the next best thing for me would be in the ring, would be a referee. It made sense, and I was a natural at it. So Dave Sierra got booked in Texas. He said, Fonzie, come out with me to Texas, and I'll tell him you're my little brother and you're a referee, and let's see if we can get you in. But unfortunately, they had David Manning, Bronco Lubitsch, and a bunch of different referees, so there was no spot for Fonzie. So I rode around for a year with Dave, and he was paying my food and all my expenses. But I ended up working one time for Joe Blanchard, which is in San Antonio. I worked one time for Paul Bosch out of Houston. I worked one time for the Von Erichs in Dallas, and I worked one time for the Funks, which owned the territory. There was 4 territories in Texas, brother. It was so big. So I worked one time for the Funks, and the night I worked for them was in either Amarillo or I think it was Lubbock, Texas, and it was Terry Funk and the Sheik in the cage
The
a
chain
cage
match.
match. Yes, so I was thrilled to get that, and of course I was a little nervous
I
because
bet
these are
so.
the guys I grew up watching, and the Sheik, you know what I mean? It's the Sheik, he was scary just looking at him. But anyway, I did really good, and I made $90 that night. That was my first payoff, $90, which I was thrilled to get. But then that ended up leading me into a job with Florida because
Right.
I said, Dave, I told Dave, I said, look, I've been out here a year. I've worked 4 times. And, I appreciate you paying my way and, me tagging along. And I'm in the dressing room every night with Dave and met all the guys. And so I said, I got to go home. So, Paul Jones back in
Right.
the day from the
Yeah.
80s mostly worked for Mid-Atlantic, but he was out in Texas. So he heard I was leaving and I was going back to Florida because unfortunately there was no position for me. So Paul Jones says, hey, Fonzie, I heard you're leaving. I heard you're going back to Florida. I said, yeah, Paul, I just can't stay here no more. I appreciate Dave taking care of me, but I just, been out here almost 11 months and I've worked 4 times. He said, well, look, when you get back to Florida, you call the Florida Championship Wrestling office and you get a meeting with Jerry Briscoe. He's the assistant booker for Dusty. And I said, really? He said, yep. You tell Jerry that I sent you and I'm recommending, if there's a spot, tell him you're referee and, if there's any time you can be used. So I called the Florida office and Charlie Lay answers the phone. He's an old retired wrestler. Yeah, what can I do? I said, well, Paul Jones sent me to try to get a meeting with Jerry. He's okay. Let me talk to you. So he talked to Jerry and they told me to come Monday. This was on a Friday or something. He said, come Monday and have a meeting with Jerry Briscoe. So I walked in, I'm dressed nice. I look like $1 million. I walk in, there's Jerry Briscoe. He's assistant booker for Dusty. And he says, yeah, what can I do? I said, well, Paul Jones thought it'd be a good idea for me to come and have a meeting with you and tell you that I just moved back to Florida and I'm a referee. I work for Joe Blanchard. I didn't tell him how many times. You know what I mean? I said, I work for Joe Blanchard and Paul Bosch and the Von Erichs and the Funks out Texas. He said, well, damn, you got the qualifications, but unfortunately, Fonzie, we can't use it because we got our referees, but leave your number with Charlie Lay downstairs. And maybe this summer, we're going to be running 2 shows on the weekends and we maybe possibly use you. I said, okay, thank you so much, Jerry Briscoe. Thank you so much. So I left my number. This was on a Monday. So, and Monday they ran West Palm Beach, was 200 miles from Tampa. Tampa was Tuesday. Wednesday was Miami. Thursday was Jacksonville. Friday was a spot show. Saturday was a spot show. And then Sunday, Orlando. And it repeated itself every week. We were in West Palm Beach on Monday. Every week.
Right?
Tampa. Every week. Wednesday was Miami. Thursday, every week, not a day off. So the referee they had the 3 main events. And listen, this is where I get my job. You know, fortunate. Unfortunately for the referee, but fortunate for me. So the referee had the 3 main events in the car. It was sold out. West Palm Beach sold out. Dusty was on top against whoever. They're driving to West Palm and they're going through freaking like the Everglades and shit. And the referee has a flat tire, which is okay. You got a flat. But here's the kicker. He did not have a spare tire in his car. So they fucking missed the show. They missed the sold out show. He had the 3 main events. You know, the main event, the semi, and the top 3 matches. Right. And they had to give refunds. Dusty was fucking livid. He fired that referee on the spot. So I get a phone call Tuesday morning from Charlie Lay, the old man at the wrestling off Florida Championship Wrestling. He says, Bill Alfonso. That's how we talk. Bill Alfonso. He says, Dusty wanted me to call you and see if you can make Tuesday night tonight at the Armory and referee. I said, yes, sir. I can be there. What time you want me there? He said, 7 o'clock. So fuck, I'm thrilled. I go in. I'm the first one there, but Dusty was already there sitting in the dressing room. I walk in and he says, hey, are you the new referee? I said, yes, sir. He says, I heard you got a brother in the business. You know, I don't, but I do. My best friend was David Sierra, the Cuban assassin. So he says, just relax for a few minutes and I'll get with you. So I worked that night in Tampa. Then they asked me if I can make Miami. Then they asked me if I could make Jacksonville. Then they asked me if I can make the spot show. And Saturday a spot show. And then Sunday was Orlando. So Jerry Briscoe comes up to me Sunday night during the matches. I've already refereed all week, you know, Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville, 2 spot shows, and I'm in Orlando. And he says, Fonzie, Dusty likes you. He's offering you a full-time job. This was May of 1980. I could not fucking believe what I was hearing. I said, yes, sir. Thank you so much. I won't let you down. He said, just remember this. You can leave as fast as you came. So he says, he said, a new room sweeps good. So let's see how you sweep in about 6 months after you fucking wearing your ass out. But I did really good and learned from those guys, Eddie Graham, Dusty, Bobo Brazil, the great Malenko, Jody Hamilton, which is Nick Patrick's dad.
The great Malenko, is that Boris Malenko?
Yeah, Boris Malenko, Dean's dad.
Dean's dad, yeah.
So I was bred by fucking top stars, and Dusty was very religiously fucking on be on time, and he would give me these intricate finishes because back then the heels and the baby faces got dressed in 2 different dressing rooms. So the referee's job was Dusty wanted me there at 7 o'clock, not 7:15, not 7:20, not 5 after 7. At 7 a.m., I was sitting down with Dusty, and he'd go over the whole card. And in 10 minutes to go over the whole card, then I'd have to carry all the finishes and all the high spots and everything to the heels dressing room, because they did not communicate, so that's why I got really good at giving finishes and all that, because I had to carry all the finishes over for 7 matches. And after a while, I was so good at it that Dusty was amazed, but I was bred that way. And, it was really kayfabe and protect the business and all that stuff. You know how it is. Now
I missed that.
yeah, now it's fucking everybody knows it's a work, and so on and so on. But so we were really protective of our business. So that was good breeding grounds for me. So I learned from the best, you know what I mean? And Dory Funk was world champion, Jack Briscoe was world champion, Harley Race, Ric Flair, man, Dusty. I've been to so many champions and so many great matches, and I am so blessed and so lucky, brother.
Did Jim Cornette try to pay you off one night?
Well, we were in West Palm Beach. Yeah, it's funny. When I see him, he always reminds me of that. So I'm refereeing, and he comes out with his boys at midnight, whoever they were at the time, and he's working, got his tennis racket, and he comes up to me in front of everybody. He's just at work. He says, hey, ref, and he tries to put a little wad of cash in my hands, but it was all ones. It was like 15 ones or something. So I didn't know what to do. I'm relatively kind of green, but I said, fuck, he's trying to pay me off. Let me grab the money and I'll fling it out to the people, because I looked at it, it was all ones. So I flung it out to the people at ringside. They loved it. Everybody got a big pop, and Jim Cornette sold it. Oh, God damn it, you took my money. He was working. It's only $15 or something, but you can't buy that kind of, you know what I mean? You can't buy that. So it was pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah, it sure did throw his money in the audience. Yeah, I love
Very cool.
Boy, he was a smart guy. He's got the podcast and all that. He does really well on it.
He does. I enjoy his work.
Yeah, I like Jim Cornette. We go back from the 80s, man. You'd be surprised on how many guys I've met. And
you get along with just about everybody, correct?
Oh, I'm well liked, because, you got to be diplomatic in this business. And if you're not, you don't last long. If you're a dick, a thief, or an asshole, or a troublemaker, you do not last long in this business. Right. So thank goodness I got a good rapport with everybody, and I'm well liked by the fans and by the boys, and I was really good at my job. That's one of the things that carried me through, being good at what you do.
You were.
I was amazed. I'd help guys get stuck at like Adrian Street. I see him once in a while at these conventions. He says, Fonzie, thank you so much for helping me all those years in the ring, calling my matches and helping me in the ring and stuff. I'll never forget you. So, that was my job to do that. But so some guys would forget their finishes or spots or whatever. And I say, hey, grab a sense of headlock, shoot them off, one tackle, drop down, leapfrog, 2-arm drags, take a powder. You know what I mean? I can call it the whole fucking match, because I've been doing it for years.
Right.
So if you got to be good. I've learned something. There's one thing I know is the wrestling business, and I love the business, Daddy, just like you do. I can tell you're passionate about the business. You love it. You will be doing a podcast. You do a great job. And I'm very flattered to be on your podcast today, Daddy.
Well, I'm very flattered to have you, brother.
Let me show you one picture real quick, and I'll tell you why. All right, here's Andre the Giant, one of my guys who I love and adored. And it was my job. It's the referee's job. So when they bring in a specialty item like Andre the Giant for the week, or the Fabulous Moolah would come in for the week, or the World Champion would come in for the week, or the Midgets would come in for the week. And it was my job to pick them up at the airport, get them to the hotel, and take them to West Palm, take them to Tampa, take them to Miami, take them to Jacksonville. I'd ride in the car with all these cats. So it was a learning experience. Man, can you imagine a young kid, 23 years old, picking up Andre the Giant, taking him around all week? Was pretty cool. So that's one of my favorite pictures. And this picture was taken in 1981 at Miami Beach Convention Center. And during the match, I was behind him, and he was beating somebody up in the turnbuckle. I think it was Ronnie Bass or something. He was pounding Ronnie Bass, and I tried to break him up. And he stepped backwards, and he stepped on my foot. Right? He didn't mean to. He stepped on my foot, and the way he did it, he put all his weight on my top of my foot, and I think he cracked a bone because it swelled up that day. I went to the doctor and everything, and um, he said there was like a hairline fracture on that top bone on my foot, and still today, Daddy, still today, it swells up every once in a while from that where Andre the Giant stepped on my foot. So
Wow.
it's crazy, man. That was, almost 40 years ago. In the early 80s, 81 or 82. Fuck, he stepped on my foot and it still hurts.
So he literally left an impression on you.
It was great. I tell that story. People want to hear stories, and I tell them shit that's happened to me or I've seen in the dressing room or in the ring, and people just love that stuff.
You got a million of
They
them, I know.
they see what happens in the ring because they watching television, but they don't know what happens in the dressing room. They don't know what happens on the road. They don't know that Barry Windham got shot 1 hour before he had to wrestle Harley Race for a 60-minute Broadway. You want to hear the story?
Sure.
Okay, so it was me, Steve Kern, Kevin Sullivan, and Barry Windham. We're all in the car. I'm driving. So we're all making money, and we're buying gimmicks. Like we buy the Fuzz Buster. We bought back then they didn't have they had cell phones, but they were the size of a shoebox. The big battery and the phone on top of the battery and shit. So we all had those. We're making fucking money. Fuzz Busters, pistols, gold chains, fucking ostrich boots, all kind of cool shit. Rolex watch, Submariners, and all kind of cool shit. So we stop in the Everglades, on the way to Miami, and Barry Windham's got to wrestle Harley Race at a sold out Miami Beach convention center. It's been sold out. Barry Windham was our top baby face besides Dusty. So they put him against, Harley Race for the title. And so we stop in the Everglades and we all pull over and we're shooting. We all got 9mm and we're shooting randomly at shit, having a good time. Just stop and kill 15, 20 minutes shooting the guns, having a good time. So I'm standing next to Steve Kern. He says, "Hey, watch me hit that sign." I said, "Steve Kern, that sign is as big as a fucking hood of a car. How can you miss it?" He said, "No, I'm going to hit the pole that's holding up the sign, which is, a little 2-inch diameter fucking steel pole." I said, "Okay, if you hit that, you're pretty fucking good shot." So he takes aim. He takes aim at the pole, and Barry Windham standing about 30 feet on the other side of the pole, not in the path of the bullet. So Steve Kern pulls the trigger, bam! And the bullet hits the fucking pole, ricochets off, and hits Barry Windham in the leg. Bam! Down Barry Windham goes. About the same time, my fucking shoebox-sized cell phone rings, and it's Dusty. He said, "Hey, where you guys at? I'm just checking on you. It's a sold-out crowd. Get Barry Windham here. He's going to wrestle Harley Race for a 60-minute Broadway." And I said, "Dusty, Barry just got shot." Now, that's pretty fucking cool to say. Barry Windham just got shot to your boss, Dusty, who's telling you to get your ass there because he's got to wrestle Harley Race for a 60-minute time limit on Broadway. He said, "What? Oh, my God. Where you guys at?" I said, "We're in the Everglades." He said, "How bad is it?" So I'm looking at Barry, and I said, "Well, I can see the bullet. It's penetrated. It's in him, but, I can see it. So, like, 1/8 of an inch deep in there. You can see the bullet. And it wasn't bleeding a lot. It was, I don't know how that didn't happen." So Dusty says, "Well, dig the bullet out, wrap him up, and get your ass here as fast as you can." So Barry was a trooper. So we dug the bullet out, and, we taped him up, and we go to drive the hour to Miami Beach Convention Center. And he wrestles Harley Race for a 60-minute time limit. And the match was great. But what a story, right?
It is amazing.
That people
Barry one of my favorite guys to watch.
Who?
Barry Windham.
Oh, what a fabulous hand, man. He was fantastic. Him and Jake the Snake, it was Jake Roberts before Jake the Snake. Him and Jake Roberts used to have the freaking best matches. If you can imagine these two young guys. And they were both thin as a rail. Barry Windham was in his early 20s, at that time. And Jake was too. And, man, they had fucking sensational matches. Barry could work his ass off, man. and he was one of our biggest baby faces.
Very agile for a big man.
Oh my God! Now he's huge. You know, he's
He
big
can do
like
it
his
all.
dad, filled out. But back then, man, he was thin as a rail, man. But the women loved him. He looked great. He had the long blonde hair, a good-looking kid, and can work his ass off.
I remember pulling for him in at the Great American Bash 1991 against Lex Luger in the cage.
Wow!
Luger ended up winning it, and I was so upset.
Wow! That's a great story.
But yeah, WCW is where I first saw you.
Oh yeah, that was on 91 or something like that.
Yeah, I remember the tattoo that the Fujinami Flair match.
Yep.
You had the
Yep.
nice shirt on and everything with the patches and everything and all that.
Yeah. So, um, so I didn't have. I was working for Florida Championship Wrestling. Uh, can you see me? Okay.
Oh yeah, see, great. Love the shirt, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Daddy.
Yeah.
I just made for Van Dam because we released a documentary in the ECW arena in Philadelphia, which was very cool. Him and Katie, and we had the camera people following us around. Went out to Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and did a sold out show. It was pretty cool. So, you know, I have stuff made up. Any specialty show that I do, like a pay per view or any big matches, I'd always have my gimmick made up. Like the Flair Fujinami had the Japanese flag and an American flag, you know,
Right.
and they loved it. That's what got me my job full time in WCW, working for Ted Turner, making six figures, which was thrilling, you know, to work for
Yeah.
Ted Turner.
I think I told you this. My first memory of you was a match that was on. I think it was on WCW main event.
Okay.
Arn Anderson and the Z-Man
I love Owen Anderson and Tom Zink.
for the television title,
Yeah.
and Anderson pulls out some brass knucks out from his trunks and goes to hit Z-Man. Z-Man ducks and schoolboys him, and you count the three. New television champion. Arn had held the belt for like a year.
Right,
And
right.
Z-Man goes to pick up the brass knuckles, and I guess he was going to toss them outside, but you raised his hand, and you looked up there and saw them brass knuckles.
Oh, yeah. Back in the day, that
I
was
was so
common.
upset.
Yeah, how old were you?
6 years old.
Oh, okay. So you a believer? You know what I mean? You didn't
Yeah,
know.
that's
So,
when it was fun.
oh, that's a great story, Daddy.
So
That's a
much
great
fun.
story, man. Damn. But that was common for a referee to get that kind of heat. You know what I mean? And that was an intricate finish, and you know that was one of Dusty's finishes. You know.
And that would end up getting that kind of heat. That would end up helping you with your gimmick in the ECW, right?
Oh yeah,
When they brought
exactly,
you.
exactly. So I did all kind of camera work and stuff, but what I didn't do in all my years refereeing, I didn't do a lot of promos. Once in a while, I would do a promo, like introduce something, or in a meeting with Bob Geigel talking about the Royal, talking about the. We didn't have pay-per-views back then, so our pay-per-views back then were like 16 shows, consecutive shows, Super Summer Sizzler,
Right.
and we'd go around and do all the big stadiums or whatever, and we're there. So, damn, that was pretty cool, man. That was pretty cool back in the day.
When you were in WCW, were you still helping El Gigante?
Yeah, that's where. Oh, I'll tell you the story how we get. You'll like this story. So, Dusty hires me full time from the Flair Fujinami match. I wasn't in yet. I wasn't in WCW yet, but they flew me out because Hiro Matsuda was part owner of Florida Championship Wrestling, and he would interact. He would be the go-between between the Japanese office and the United States, the wrestling office, all of them. So he would send guys to Japan, and he would bring the Japanese guys over here to our country. So after years of working with him in Florida and trained by the very best, Matsuda loved me. because I was very good at my job, and he thought it'd be perfect for me to come referee that match because it was going to be a kind of a fuck finish, and he knew I could pull it off, and he knew I could look good, and and all that. So we're I've been working for Ted Turner, Dusty, and WCW, and a guy named Jim Hurd came in to WCW.
The Pizza Man.
He was a pizza man. He was like a CEO of a Pizza Hut or whatever the fuck he was. So he came in, and WCW was in the red. They weren't, they weren't making a profit. They were losing money because they were paying. They had a payroll. It was huge. These guys are making $750,000 a year. The Steiners and Sting and all, they're making huge money. So, so Jim Hurt comes in, and he wants to get the company out of the red. So his idea was everybody's going to take a pay cut. So he comes up to me and the Giant says, "Hey, we want you guys to take a pay cut. Instead of making $750 a year, Giant, you're going to make $500. And so you, Fonzie, instead of making $150 a year, you're going to make $100." So me and Giant looked at each other and said, "Fuck, I don't want to take a pay cut. We're under contract, But contracts really don't mean shit. They can do whatever the fuck they want, or fucking leave." So Giant, after Jim Hurd tells us that, me and Giant went and had a meeting in our dressing room. He says, "Fonzie, I don't want to take a pay cut, but I can go back to playing European basketball, or I can go to Japan and wrestle." And he says, "Fonzie, do you know anybody in WWF?" It wasn't WWE. It was He said, I said, "Yeah, I know J.J. Dillon. He's assistant booker for Vince. He said, "Well, call him up and tell them that if they're interested in us, and why we want to leave WCW." I said, "Okay." So the next day I call the Vince's office. Priscilla answers the phone. WWF headquarters, how can I help you? I said, "Yeah, my name's Bill Alfonso. We'll see if JJ Dillon's available, please." And she says, "Hold the line." And I guess he called JJ's office. "Hey, Fonzie's on the line." And he took the phone call right away. "Hey, Fonzie, oh my God, how you doing?" Because I had worked with JJ for years.
Right.
My friend. So he says, "Hey, Fonzie," we chit-chatted for a minute. He says, "Hey, what can I do for you?" Then I explained to him. I said, "Look, this new guy, Jim Hurd, came in. He wants to take a pay cut, and the Giants not too happy about it. So we're weighing our options out. Our option is go to Japan and wrestle in Japan, or go play basketball in Europe, or contact you guys," which I'm doing right now, JJ, "and seeing if you guys are interested in me and JJ, me and the Giant. It's a package deal. I can referee and I take care of him. I'm his personal assistant." And he said, "Well, Fonzie, let me run it by Vince, and I'll get back with you." So we hung up. I said, "Oh, he's never going to call me." You know what I mean? He said, let me run it by Vince. Fucking 20 minutes later, to the minute, my phone rings. It's JJ Dillon. I said, "Hey, JJ. He says, "Well, I talked to Vince, and he's definitely interested. When can you guys fly up?" I said, "We can fly up because the Giant just had a little surgery. He had a spur in his heel, like a little thing that they had to dig out, and he was going to be off for a week or so." I said, "JJ, he just had a little spur in his thing, so we're off. He can travel. He just can't wrestle." He said, "Okay, Vince wants you guys to come up tomorrow and have a meeting with him." I said, "Okay, great." He said, "Well, give me your flight info." I said, "Well, the Giant can't fit in coach. He's got to fly first class. Me, I'll sit anywhere, JJ." He said, "Okay, Fonzie." So they flew us both up first class. They had a limousine pick us up at the airport. We get off the plane, we're walking to the limo. The producer and actor, Spike? He was a rapper and all that. He's a black guy.
Spike Lee?
Yeah, little Spike.
Right.
So he's a big basketball freak. So we get off the plane, we're walking to the limo, and Spike runs up to me and says, "My God, how tall is that guy? My God." He was freaking out over it. So we stop and put Spike over. We talked to him for a half hour. Uh, gave him pictures and shit, gave more info. He wanted to use him in a movie or something. But anyway, so we're headed to the office, and it's right off of 95 in Connecticut. You know what I mean? So we're headed to the office, and we pass the office. I said, "Hey, driver, there's the office right there." We're passing. He said, "No, we're going to Vince's house."
Right.
And Vince never has nobody come over to his house, to talk wrestling. So we go up to Vince's house. There's J.J. Dillon answers the door, and Vince comes out, and he's dressed in a fucking orange or blue suit, a funny looking suit, but $1,000 suit, but it's odd looking because of the bright colors.
Always in character.
Oh yeah. So Vince says, "Come on in, guys," and he had lunch ready for us and all kind of shit. And we were talking for about an hour. Vince was asking the Giant, "How's his knees? How did this? Do that? Do that?" He says, "Well, we're definitely interested in you. We want to hire you, Giant, and Fonzie too. He can still be your personal assistant and your referee." So I said, "Great." So the Giant says to Vince, he says, "Vince, I haven't been home to Argentina in 14 months." He says, "Can I go home and get some vacation time in and then start, like December 15th instead of, He says, "Oh, no problem. They give us plenty of time to make your costume up. I got this idea of putting you in this costume and all that." And he says, "Fonzie, do you want to start when the Giant starts in a month from now?" I said, "No. No, I want to start right now." So he said, "JJ had him on the booking," so he put me to work. And that's how we got into Vince. And then under work in WrestleMania, I barely missed WrestleMania 8. I did WrestleMania 9, and I stayed almost to 10. I was like a month out before WrestleMania 10. That's why I wasn't on 10. So I missed 8. I worked 9 and missed 10. But then I went to ECW, which is great.
Right. And was that from your relationship with Paul and WCW?
Yes, because when Paul Heyman came to Florida in the 80s, he tagged along like I did with Dave Sierra in Texas. He tagged along with one of his buddies. He's trying to break in as a manager. So he's just riding around with him for, the whole summer. And so the guy's name was Tombstone, Paul Heyman was riding with. And they were really good friends. And so Tombstone was leaving the territory. He was going to go to a different territory. And Paul Heyman says, "Hey, Fonzie, you think it'd be possible if I can go to the ring with Tombstone and be his manager? He's leaving in 2 weeks. And I'll do anything you guys want. What you think is possible? Please, please." I was assistant booker, so I can make that happen. So I said, "Well, okay, Paul, but you can't go to the ring. You got a pair of Levi's on with holes in them. You got an old pair of Converse, and you got a T-shirt on. How the fuck are you gonna go to the ring looking like one of the people in the audience?" I said, "Can you have access to a suit? Can you go buy a suit and look sharp?" He said, "Yeah. I didn't know his parents were fucking millionaires, lived in Scarsdale, New York. His dad was a big-time lawyer. I didn't know any of this about his family history. So they're wealthy kids. So the next day he's going to go to the ring with Tombstone to manage him. He comes with this beautiful suit. He comes with this big cell phone, not the shoebox one, the next size. It looked like a big walkie-talkie, but it was a cell phone.
Dangerously phone.
Yes. So he comes to the ring with that, and so he does that. We let him do it for the 2 weeks, and then he leaves. And then the next thing you know, he's a big star for Verdun Gagne. You know what I mean? And then for WCW and so on and so on. And we're still friends to this year. He never forgot me helping him get his managing job in Florida all those years. So it was a natural fit. He loved me. So I got released from WWE. I mean WWF. It was WWF because it was economics. It wasn't because I was a bad ref. It wasn't because I came stone. It wasn't because I'm a drinker. It was just pure economics. About money. They just weren't drawing. So so Paul Heyman calls me up and says, Fonzie, I got this company called ECW. I said, now, I don't know anything about indies because I've only worked for Florida Championship Wrestling, WCW, and WWF. There's only company, and Japan. I've been to Japan 13 times. So I didn't know anything about no indies. I said, Paul, what the fuck's an ECW? He said, oh, this is a company I got in Philly. He says, we're trying something different. We like it. You just left WWF. We wanted to bring you in as a conservative referee and be anti-ECW, anti-violence. You want the doctor, his wife, and 2 kids at ringside. We want the fucking men from the age of 18 to 32 sitting at ringside. You know what I mean? So
you started working with Shane Douglas off the bat, right?
yeah, so Shane brought me in. So it was a work. So Shane said, hey, I'm bringing the most conservative referee in the business. Bill Alfonso calls it right down the middle. He's going to clean ECW up because Shane was anti-violence too. He wants to be like Ric Flair, that kind of matches and shit. So I come in there and I'm trying to stop the violence. Now, you remember Axel Rotten and Ian Rotten?
Oh,
They had been shooting this angle. They would come back in a Taipei death match.
The glass.
Which means they taped their hands up.
Mm-hmm.
They dipped their hands in glue. Then they dipped their hands in glass and they fight each other. So that was the match. Now the fans been waiting months and months to see this match, So I'm the referee. So the first sign of blood, there was one little droplet of blood above his eye. I stopped the match. I said, due to lack of vision and Ian Ron's eye, I'm stopping the match. Man, the people wanted to fucking hang me, Daddy, because they've been waiting months for this fucking hardcore match.
Major heat.
Brother, I had so much heat. They were throwing drinks on me, spitting on me, but, so it got over. And then, and I was supposed to come in for 4 weeks only, and then 911 was going to choke slam me, and then I move on, But my gimmick got over really good, and I ended up staying there 5 years.
I remember you get on the microphone saying, Joey Styles, I hate you.
Oh, man, I was a natural, but listen, the talk about promos and stuff, I wasn't an expert in doing promos because, I'm a referee, and how many promos do we do as a referee? Not too many. So I was having trouble spitting these promos out. It was 5 takes, 6 takes, 7 takes to do one promo. Tommy Dreamer and Paul Heyman said, hey, Fonzie, what's the problem? I said, well, I can't get these promos down. And Tommy Dreamer mostly, he says, Fonzie, just treat it like a shoot. You're in Philadelphia under 26. You're wrestling the Sandman. There's no disqualification. You hate Philly. This. I said, okay, let me try it again. So I just tell her the truth. So I know him, and I say, hey, Daddy, on November 26th at the ECW Arena, the famous ECW, my man Sabu is going to kick Sandman's ass, Daddy. He'll be looking for a new job tomorrow, baby. So now they calling me One Take Fonzie because immediately I couldn't do promos. And once Tommy Dreamer got finished with me, telling me to treat it like a shoot, they came natural. And I was unstoppable at doing promos. Then they put us with Van Dam and Sabu, and we were just naturals together. People loved us. They liked the promos.
Let me ask you, do you have any stories from the first invasion when ECW first came into WWE when Sabu was on the top of the Raw sign?
Yeah, dove off the R or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess Vince didn't smarten everybody up about us invading that invading Raw. So here comes a bunch, because we came through the fucking front door. We didn't come in the dressing room and talk with everybody and hung out in the dressing room, and then it was our time to come out. We did it. Vince wanted to treat it like it was a shoot, so he wanted to surprise the wrestlers. Oh, a few guys knew about it, so we invade. We go down right to ringside and shit, and the referee. It wasn't Hebner, it wasn't Joey Morella, it wasn't Mike Chioda. It was another referee, kind of a tall, skinny guy. I haven't seen him since. So we invade the fucking match, and the referee thought we were really invading it. Thought we were intruders. And the cardinal rule is if a fan jumps in the ring or something, your job is to fuck him up quick.
Right.
You know, beat the fuck out of him. Anybody who fucking jumps on our shit, you know, but don't hit nobody in the audience. Wait for them to get in the ring. So I'm at ringside, and Taz and Ben are beating somebody up, and the referee jumps out, and he grabs me in a fucking chokehold. You know, he didn't know that it's a work. He didn't know that Vince, you know, designed all this. So I said, brother, fucking loosen up. He's squeezing me as hard as he can, trying to keep me at bay or something. And then I told him, I said, brother, you're killing me. Stop, fuck. So work, you motherfucker. And he didn't stop until my guy come down there and punched him or something, you know, working punch and broke it up. But we get back to the dressing room and say, hey, brother, fuck. You know, it's a work. Why are you fucking trying to choke me out, man? That's not cool. He said, well, I didn't know. I thought you guys were invading for real and shit. I said, well, we fucking work, brother. My fucking neck hurts, you motherfucker. You know, but then he said, oh, I'm sorry, Fonzie. I'm sorry. But I said, why didn't you grab one of the wrestlers like that? You grabbed the smallest guy, me. You don't get the balls to grab fucking Taz, do you? Well, that's a different story. He's bigger. I said, well, you grabbed the smallest guy. You tried to choke him out, bitch.
Jeez. I remember that whole show was great.
Man.
And culminated with Sabu doing the moonsault.
Oh, man. We did not know. Nobody knew in the country that there was a market for that hardcore, you know, what Paul Heyman was doing. Paul Heyman was making it up as you go along and, you know, getting more hardcore with all these different things. And it worked, man. And we fucking started doing, you know, we did our first pay-per-view, Barely Legal, and it really took off, man. It was sensational, you know, what we did and what we accomplished. Who knew there was a market for that hardcore? Now, hey, Daddy, there was been so many indie shows and so many companies, Smoky Mountain, all kind of companies.
Whoa. You there, Fonzie?